I paid off the $85,000 of my daughter's student loans. I worked double shifts for years eating canned beans and rice just so she could start her life debt-free. The day I needed $500 for my heart medication, she looked at me without blinking and said, "Mom, being 78 years old, why do you want to keep spending money?" And while I was about to die, she kept my house. I am 78 years old, and today I am going to tell you how the daughter for whom I sacrificed my entire life left me to die at the door of my own home. But before getting to that betrayal, I need you to understand everything I gave for her. My name is Hope. What irony, right? Because for a long time I lost all hope in humanity in my own blood. Let me take you back 15 years when Natalie, my only daughter, came running into our small house in the suburbs with a letter in her hands. Her eyes shone with an emotion I had not seen in her for years. "Mom, I got accepted into medical school. I remember I was making pancakes on the stove. The smell of hot butter filled the kitchen. I dropped everything and hugged her so tight I could feel her heart beating against my chest. My little girl was going to be a doctor. After becoming a widow at 51, after cleaning offices for years, after selling homemade pies on weekends, finally something good was coming into our lives. You did it, my love. I am so proud." What I did not know was that acceptance letter came with a price. $100,000 in student loans, 6 years of career, books, uniforms, materials, transport. Natalie sat at the worn wooden table where we had eaten dinner together for so many years. "Mom, it is a lot of money. Maybe it is not the right time." "Do not talk nonsense," I interrupted her. "We will find a way. We always do." And so began my second job, or rather my third job. From Monday to Friday, I cleaned 3 houses from 6 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon. Then I ran to my shift at a diner downtown where I washed dishes until 11 at night. On weekends, I baked and sold apple pies, cherry pies, and meatloaves. I got up at 4 in the morning to have the oven ready. My hands, oh my hands, filled with calluses, with burns, with cracks from the bleach and cold water. But every time I saw Natalie studying until late, surrounded by huge anatomy books, I felt that every blister was worth it. Do you know how many double shifts I worked? Not even I know. I lost count after the first year. My life became a survival routine. Work, pay sleep, 4 hours, repeat. I stopped going to the doctor when the chest pains started. It is just nerves, I told myself. There was no time or money for my ailments. I remember once Natalie found me asleep on the armchair with my diner uniform still on, smelling of grease and onions. It was 3 in the morning. She had just arrived. "Mom, this is too much. You do not have to kill yourself like this for me." I caressed her face. "My little girl, I already lived my life. Now it is your turn. I am not going to let you lose this opportunity." But now, with everything I know, I wonder if in that moment she felt gratitude, or if she only calculated how much my sacrifice should cost her. For 6 full years, I paid every dollar of that university. $500 here for books, $300 there for clinical uniforms, $1,000 for a specialized course. When it was not enough, I pawned things. First, it was the gold chain my late husband gave me on our anniversary. Then my mother's silver earrings. I ate beans and rice almost every day. White rice with a fried egg if I was lucky. Black coffee with day-old bread they gave me at the bakery on the corner. Sometimes Mrs. Higgins, my neighbor, left a plate of stew at my door because she had leftovers. We both knew it was a lie, but I accepted it with all the dignity I had left. Natalie graduated with honors. I saw her cross that stage with her white gown and her cap receiving her title as a surgeon. I cried so much I could barely see her. They were tears of pride, of relief, of exhaustion. "We did it, Mom. We did it together. Together." That word gave me strength to continue. Then came 3 more years of specialization. Another $40,000 in debts. By that time, I was 70 years old and my body was starting to bill me for so much abuse. But I could not stop. There was so little left. Finally, at 73, I made the last payment. $85,000 in total. Every penny earned with the sweat of my wrinkled forehead and my destroyed hands. Natalie was already an established cardiologist working in a private hospital downtown. She had married Roger, an architect with a good last name and a better bank account. They lived in a beautiful house in a gated community. They had 2 children, Sam 14 and Mia 12. I remained in my small house in the suburbs, the same house where Natalie grew up, where her dad died of a heart attack when she was 15. 2 small bedrooms, a patio with my lemon tree and my geraniums, and that kitchen where I could still smell the breakfasts I prepared all my life. I thought finally I could rest. That Natalie, now successful and debt-free, would help me a little. I did not expect her to support me, just, call me more often, visit me, ask me how I was. But the visits became spaced out. First it was once a week, then every 2 weeks, then only on holidays and always in a hurry. Sorry, Mom, I have a surgery early tomorrow. Mom, the kids have homework. Mom, Roger and I have an important dinner. I nodded, smiled, prepared their favorite food in the few hours they gave me. And when they left, I stayed alone in that house that suddenly felt too big, too silent. But I did not complain because a good mother asks for nothing in return, or so I thought. Until my heart started to fail for real, and I discovered she had already started planning how to get rid of me. But that part comes later. If you want to know how my own daughter betrayed me in the cruelest way you can imagine, stay until the end of this story, because I need someone to know the truth. And if you have ever felt you gave everything for someone who did not value it, this story is also for you. Subscribe to the channel to follow real stories that need to be told. I thought I was building her future. I was financing my own destruction. During the first months after finishing paying her debts, I felt light for the first time in 15 years, as if I had carried a sack of cement on my back for so long, I no longer remembered how it felt to walk straight. Natalie seemed like the perfect daughter in everyone's eyes, successful, elegant, always with the right words at family gatherings. When my cousin Rachel asked about her, I puffed out my chest with pride. She is a cardiologist, at the city hospital. She sees only important patients. What I did not tell them was that I had not seen her for 2 months. Phone calls became more spaced out, colder. When I dialed, she always answered with that tone, you know when someone is busy and you are an interruption. Mom, I am with a patient. I will call you later. But later never came. When we finally saw each other, something had changed in her look. She was no longer the girl who hugged me with gratitude. She was a rushed woman checking her watch every 5 minutes, sighing when I told her about the lemon tree or about Mrs. Higgins. Mom, you should not be working so much anymore. At your age, you have done enough. That phrase. The first time I heard it, it filled me with tenderness. I thought she worried about me. That finally she wanted to give me back something of everything I gave. How naive I was. One Sunday, 3 months after the last payment of her debt, Natalie arrived to visit me with Roger and the kids. It was rare for them to come all together. I prepared roast chicken, red rice, handmade biscuits. I got up at 5 in the morning so everything would be perfect. Sam and Mia barely hugged me before taking out their phones and sitting in the living room. Roger was kind as always, but distant. Natalie inspected the house with a look I did not know how to decipher at that moment. Mom, this house is getting too big for you alone. I poured myself a glass of water. My hands trembled a little. Lately, they trembled often. It is my home, my love. You grew up here. Here. Yes, I know. She interrupted me with a smile that did not reach her eyes. But think about it. 2 floor stairs, that yard that needs maintenance. It is a lot of work for a woman your age. Roger coughed uncomfortably. Natalie shot him a quick look I could not interpret. Besides, Mom, with all the effort you made for me, it is time for you to rest, to live calmly without worries. There was that phrase again. You have done enough. As if my useful life had come to an end. As if I had fulfilled my function and now I was left over. But I still did not see the trap. That night, after they left, leaving the kitchen full of dirty dishes that I washed alone, I sat in the living room armchair. The same armchair where I rocked Natalie when she was a baby, where I read her stories, where I consoled her when her dad died. Something heavy settled in my chest. It was not just tiredness. It was a sensation I did not want to name yet. The following weeks, Natalie started visiting me more frequently, but not to spend time with me. She came with pretexts. Mom, let me review your documents. You need to have everything in order. Mom, where do you keep the house deed? It should be in a safe place. Mom, you should get a full medical checkup. I will pay for it. That last offer surprised me. It was the first time in years she offered to pay for something for me. I accepted, because I really felt bad. The chest pains had become more frequent. I got tired going up the stairs. Sometimes I ran out of air just hanging the laundry. It is just accumulated stress, Mom. Years of overworking. She told me while driving her new SUV towards the hospital. But let us check you well to be sure. They did tests I could never have paid for alone. Electrocardiograms, blood tests, x-rays. Natalie knew all the doctors. They treated her with deference, with respect. Dr. Salazar, what a pleasure to see you here. I felt proud again. That was my daughter, the girl for whom I sacrificed everything. A week later, she called me to give me the results. Her voice sounded strange, controlled. Mom, I need you to come to my office. We have to talk about your heart. The diagnosis was like a bucket of ice water, early-stage heart failure. Nothing critical yet, but I needed medications, periodic checkups, care. And how much does the treatment cost? I asked, feeling the floor move under my feet. Natalie closed the results folder. She leaned back on her desk, that mahogany desk, with her name engraved on a gold plate. Dr. Natalie Salazar Mendoza, cardiologist. Mom, do not worry about that now. The important thing is that you take care of yourself. But I need to know, daughter, I still work at Mrs. Peterson's house, and for that very reason, Mom, you should not be working anymore. Look at you, your body is billing you. She was right, but I also had to eat. I had to pay for electricity, water, gas. The Social Security pension barely covered the basics. There are cheaper medications, she said after a long silence. Not as effective as the ones you really need, but they could help a little. I felt something break inside me, something small like a dry branch, and the others, the ones I really need. Natalie sighed. That sigh that was already becoming familiar to me, the sigh of someone who has more important things to do. They are expensive, Mom, almost $1,000 a month, and you would have to take them for the rest of your life, the rest of my life, which according to my sick heart might not be that long. Look, she continued, softening her voice. What you need is to reduce stress. Stop working. Simplify your life. That big house requires a lot of maintenance, many expenses. Have you thought about moving to something smaller, more manageable? There it was again. The house. Natalie, that is my house, your dad's house. Where you? Yes, Mom, I know. But Dad is gone, and you are alone. It makes no sense for you to cling to a place that is consuming you. I stayed silent because maybe she was right. Maybe I was just a stubborn old woman clinging to the past. Think about it, she said and patted my hand. A little pat like you give a dog. For now, take these basic medications. We will talk about the full treatment later. I left that office with a prescription for second-class medicines and a new weight in my chest that had nothing to do with my sick heart. On the way back home on the bus full of people, I allowed myself to think the unthinkable. My daughter did not want to help me. My daughter wanted what? What did she really want? I arrived home when the sun was setting. The lemon tree cast long shadows over the patio. I touched the walls of my kitchen, the same walls that saw Natalie grow, that held echoes of laughter and tears and lullabies. Maybe it is me, I said aloud. Maybe I am selfish for wanting to stay here. But deep down in that place where we keep the truths we do not want to see, I already knew something was not right. Only I did not imagine yet how far her betrayal would go. Because the worst had not arrived yet. My heart was failing. But hers was already dead. 2 months after that diagnosis, my body started billing me completely. It was no longer just occasional pains. Now I woke up in the early hours with my chest oppressed, as if someone were sitting on me. My legs swelled so much I could barely put on my shoes. One early morning I could not take it anymore. It was 3 a.m. when the pain became unbearable. I called Natalie with trembling hands. "Mom, what is wrong?" Her voice sounded irritated, sleepy. "My love, I cannot breathe well." The chest. A silence. Then a long sigh. "Did you take your pills?" "Yes, but—" "Then it is anxiety, Mom. Breathe deep. You cannot be calling me at these hours for every discomfort. I have a surgery at 7 a.m. And she hung up. I remained sitting on the edge of my bed with the phone in my hand, feeling like I was drowning, not from lack of air, from something much worse. The next morning, Mrs. Higgins found me passed out on the patio. She was the one who called the ambulance. She was the one who accompanied me to the public hospital, not Natalie. When finally my daughter arrived at the hospital 6 hours later, she wore that expression I knew well, annoyance disguised as concern. "Mom, I told you it was nerves. Look at all the fuss you made." The doctor who attended me spoke clearly. My heart failure had advanced. I needed the full treatment, $1,000 monthly in medications, checkups every 2 weeks, immediate lifestyle changes, and above all, the doctor added she needs to avoid stress. No heavy work, 0 worries. Natalie nodded like the professional doctor she was. But when we were alone, her mask slipped a little. "Mom, this is getting out of control. You cannot pay for that treatment. I have my own expenses, the kids, the mortgage. I am not asking you for anything," I whispered. My voice came out weaker than I wanted. "I know. But you also cannot continue like this, working, stressing, living alone in that huge house that requires constant maintenance." There it was again, the house. "I have been thinking," she continued, pulling her chair closer, "and I think the moment has come to make intelligent decisions. For your own good." She took some papers out of her purse, official papers she brought prepared, as if she had been waiting for this moment. "This is a power of attorney, something temporary, just so I can help you manage your affairs if something happens to you, your accounts, your documents, the house." My heart skipped a beat, and this time it was not because of the illness. "I do not understand, daughter. Why do you need that?" "Because you are realistic, Mom. You are 78 years old and have a heart that does not respond well anymore. If something happens to you, who will be able to act fast? Think of the children of your inheritance. Everything must be in order." She used my grandchildren, Sam and Mia, the same children who barely paid attention to me when they came, but now appeared in her speech as urgent reasons to sign. Besides, she lowered her voice, looking around as if someone could listen. "If you sell the house and move to a small place more manageable, you could use that money for your treatment to live your last years calmly." Last year's, she said it just like that, without filter. "I do not want to sell my house, Natalie. I am not saying you sell it now, just that we have everything prepared just in case." Something in her tone, something calculated, rehearsed. But I was tired, scared. I had just passed out. My heart was a time bomb. "It is just for security, Mom. So I can help you if you cannot make decisions. You trust me, right?" That question was the perfect trap. How to tell no to the daughter for whom I sacrificed everything. How to admit I was starting to doubt her. I signed. With my hand trembling with a lump in my throat, I signed that damn paper. Natalie smiled, a smile that should have warned me of everything. She put the documents in her bag with quick, efficient movements. "Perfect. Now rest. I will take care of everything." That night alone in my hospital bed with the sound of machines beeping around me, I remembered something I had forgotten, or that I had wanted to forget. 2 weeks before, when Natalie was reviewing my important documents, she found my wedding ring. That white gold ring with a small diamond my husband put on me more than 50 years ago. "Mom, do you still use this? It weighs too much for your swollen fingers." She took it between her fingers, evaluating it like someone evaluates merchandise. "You should keep it in a safe place. Or better, let us sell it. You could get about $1,500. It would help with your expenses." I took it off that afternoon. I told her yes, because I needed money for the consultation coming up, because she convinced me it was logical. I saw her take it away, the last physical piece of my marriage, of my youth, of when someone loved me without asking for anything in return. "Relax, Mom. I will get you the best price. I never saw that money." When I asked her weeks later, she told me she had used it to pay some urgent expenses of mine she had covered. She never specified which ones. Now, lying in that hospital bed, I finally understood what was happening. My daughter was not taking care of me. She was stripping me. Slowly, methodically, with the precision of a surgeon who knows exactly where to cut. And I had just given her the legal scalpel to finish the job. She convinced me it was for my good while planning to keep everything. I left the hospital a week later with a bag full of cheap medications and a signed paper that took away control of my own life, although I still did not know it. Natalie became more present, but not in the way a mother would wish. She came to check things, to move papers, to take photos of the corners of my house with her phone, just documenting the current state. Mom. For insurance. What insurance? She never explained. One afternoon, she arrived with Roger and a man she introduced as a property appraiser. She did not ask if they could come in. They simply did. The man walked through my house with a tablet taking notes, measuring walls, evaluating every corner as if I were not there, as if it were no longer mine. Mom, it is just to have an idea of the value, just in case. Just in case what? But I no longer asked, because every time I did, Natalie sighed with that exhaustion that made me feel like a burden. The appraiser left, leaving a folder. Natalie put it away quickly, but I managed to see the number, $350,000. That night I could not sleep. My little house was worth that. The place where I raised my daughter alone, where I survived my husband's death, where every wall held memories that were priceless. On Sundays, Natalie started bringing Sam and Mia more frequently, but something had changed in how they treated me. "Grandma, is it true you are moving soon?" Mia asked while playing with her phone without even looking at me. "Moving? No, my love. Who told you that?" "Mom said you cannot take care of yourself anymore, that you are going to a place where there are nurses." I felt the floor open under my feet. I looked at Natalie, who was making coffee in my kitchen as if nothing. "Daughter, what is she talking about?" "Oh, Mom, the kids confuse things. I only mentioned there are very nice residences for seniors in case you need them someday." But Mia had not confused anything. Her words were too specific. Sam did not even participate in the conversation. He was buried in his video game. These were my grandchildren, the children for whom supposedly I had to organize my inheritance. That afternoon after they left, I dialed my cousin Rachel. I needed to talk to someone who knew me for real. "Hope, are you okay? You sound strange." I told her everything. The papers, the appraiser, the constant insinuations about moving. Rachel kept a long silence. "Cousin, I do not like this at all. Natalie is planning something. Do not say that. She is my daughter. She is just worried about me." Worried. A worried daughter helps you with your meds. She does not pressure you to sign papers. Be very careful, Hope. Very careful. But I still did not want to see, because accepting the truth meant accepting I had sacrificed 15 years of my life for someone who only waited for me to die to keep the little I had. The next week, Natalie arrived with a new folder. She smiled, but it was that professional smile she used with her patients. "Mom, I found the perfect solution." Look, they were brochures for senior residences, places with pretty names, Golden Sunset Gardens of Peace, Villa Hope. This one is very good. It has nurses, 24 hours meals included, recreational activities, and best of all, it costs only $4,000 a month. With what we would get from selling the house, you could pay for full years in advance and have plenty left for your medical treatment. Every word was like a stab. "I am not going to sell my house, Natalie." Her smile hardened. "Mom, be realistic. You are 78 years old, a heart that fails. How much longer do you think you can take care of this place? What if you fall on the stairs and no one finds you?" She was using my fear, my age, my illness, everything that made me vulnerable. In a residence, I would be safe, cared for. I could sleep peacefully, knowing you are okay. But it was not for me. It was never for me. "Think about it," she said, leaving the brochures on my table. "You do not have to decide today, but you also cannot keep denying reality." When I closed the door behind her, I allowed myself to cry everything I had held back, everything I did not want to admit. My daughter was taking me out of my own house slowly, methodically, with arguments that sounded reasonable to anyone listening. "It is for your good, Mom." But when does someone's good imply stripping them of everything they love? I sat in my armchair, the same one where I rocked her as a baby, where I taught her to read, where we cried together when her dad died. And in that moment, something in me started to change. The fear began to transform into something different, something I had not felt in years. Anger because maybe my heart was failing, but my dignity still beat strong. She turned me into a burden in front of everyone who knew me. My sister Linda's birthday was the day everything became public. She was turning 75 and organized a family lunch at her house. The whole family would be there, cousins, nephews, even some close neighbors. Natalie insisted on picking me up. "You cannot go alone on public transport." "Mom, what if you get dizzy?" I should have seen the trap. We arrived late. Everyone was already seated around the tables in the garden. The smell of barbecue and freshly made sauce filled the air. Music played in the background. It was a happy party. Until Natalie opened her mouth. "Sorry for the delay. Mom took a long time to get ready. You know how she is. At her age, everything takes triple the time." Uncomfortable laughter. I felt the heat rise to my face. I sat next to my cousin Rachel, who squeezed my hand under the table. During the meal, I tried to participate in conversations, to laugh, to be myself. But Natalie watched me like a hawk. When I told an anecdote about Mrs. Higgins, she interrupted me. "Mom, you already told that story 3 times. Remember." Not true. I had never told it there. But everyone looked at me with that expression, that mixture of pity and discomfort people put on when they think you are losing your mind. "Oh, sorry," I murmured, lowering my eyes to my plate. Later, my niece Gabriella asked about my house, about my lemon tree. Before I could answer, Natalie intervened. "Oh, Gabby, let us not ask much about that. Mom gets sentimental. She is in a difficult process of accepting she has to let go of certain things." Rachel dropped her fork with force. "Let go of what things, Natalie?" "Well, the house is huge for her alone. We already talked about more manageable options, places where she can be cared for accompanied." Silence fell heavy on the table. Everyone looked at me now as if I were a child incapable of making her own decisions. "Hope, is that true?" Linda asked with genuine concern. I opened my mouth to speak, but Natalie was faster. "Mom is in denial still. It is normal. Seniors cling to their routines even if they are dangerous for them. I, as a doctor, see it all the time." Doctor, she used her title as a weapon, as unquestionable authority. Her heart is very delicate. She cannot be alone going upstairs carrying things. One slip and... She snapped her fingers. "That is why I am looking for the best for her." My sister Linda nodded, convinced. "How good that you worry so much about your mom, Natalie. Not all daughters are like that." I felt nausea. I wanted to scream that it was all a lie, that she was not taking care of me, that she was stripping me. But who would believe me? There was the successful doctor worried about her poor, sick, and stubborn mother. And there was I, the senile old woman who did not accept reality. Roger, sitting at the other end of the table, did not participate in the conversation. He looked at his beer with an uncomfortable expression. When our eyes met, I saw something there. Guilt, maybe, or perhaps just discomfort. After eating while we women cleaned the kitchen, I heard Natalie talking to my cousins in the hallway. It is hard seeing her like this. A few days ago, she called me at 3 a.m. for a pain that turned out to be gas. Again, she left the stove on all night. She has moments of lucidity, but also confusion. Lies, all lies, but said with so much conviction that even I doubted my own memory for a second. "Poor thing," I heard someone say. "And poor you, Natalie. What a burden." Burden. That word pierced me. Rachel found me crying in the bathroom. She hugged me tight, saying nothing because there were no words for this. "She is destroying you in front of everyone," she whispered finally. "She is building a narrative so when she keeps your house, everyone thinks she did the right thing." She was right. Natalie was sewing the story. Senile mother sacrificed daughter. When the moment came to take everything from me, no one would question anything. Everyone would say, "Thank goodness Natalie was there to take care of her." On the way back home, Natalie drove humming, happy, satisfied with her performance. "The party was nice, right, Mom?" I did not answer. I looked out the window at the streets of the city that saw me born, the city where I built my life, where I buried my husband, where I raised alone this woman who now treated me like a hindrance. "Mom, do not get mad. I am just being realistic. Someone has to be." When we arrived at my house, I got out of the car without saying goodbye. I heard her voice behind me. "Think about what we talked. Time is running out, Mom. Your heart is not going to wait for you to be ready." I closed the door. I leaned against it. And for the first time in my life, I felt real fear of my own daughter, because she no longer hid. She no longer pretended. The public humiliation had been her way of telling me, I no longer care what you think. I am going to do what I want, and everyone is going to applaud me. But she did not know something, that women of my generation learn to survive things worse than a daughter's betrayal, and that when you have nothing left to lose, you become dangerous. While I agonized in the hospital, she changed the locks. It all happened one night in October. I remember the exact date. October 17th, because it was the day I almost died, and the day I lost my home. That afternoon I felt strange, a crushing weight in my chest that did not go away with the pills, cold sweat, dizziness. I called Natalie 3 times. She did not answer. At 9 at night, the pain became unbearable. I called Mrs. Higgins with the last breath I had left. Mrs. Hope, my God, do not move. I am calling the ambulance. The next thing I remember are bright lights, distant voices, the sharp sound of a siren, and darkness. I woke up 3 days later in intensive care, tubes everywhere, the constant beeping of machines, a nurse checking my vital signs. Relax, ma'am. You had a severe heart attack. You are stable now, but it was very serious. Natalie arrived on the 4th day. Not the 1st, nor the 2nd. The 4th. She wore dark glasses even though we were indoors. She sat next to my bed with that expression I already knew. Rehearsed worry. Mom, you gave us a terrible scare. Where were you? My voice came out hoarse, barely a whisper. I was at a medical congress in Cancun. I came as soon as I could. Lie. Mrs. Higgins told me later she had called her the same night of my heart attack. Natalie chose not to come. The following days were a haze of pain medications and loneliness. Roger came once uncomfortable with flowers he left on the table without saying much. The kids never appeared. Only Mrs. Higgins came daily. She brought me broth, combed my hair, held my hand. Her daughter is a doctor, and I, who barely finished elementary school, am the one caring for her. What irony, right, Mrs. Hope? Natalie appeared from time to time, always in a hurry, always checking her phone, always with that air of making a great sacrifice. I was hospitalized 12 days. 12 days between life and death. 12 days in which, as I learned later, Natalie was very busy. The day I was discharged, Mrs. Higgins was the one who picked me up. Natalie had an urgent surgery. Roger offered his car, but she needed it. We arrived at my house at sunset. The lemon tree looked beautiful with the golden sunlight. My neighbor's bougainvilleas peeked over the fence. Everything looked the same, until I tried to open the door. The key did not fit. I tried again. Nothing. Mrs. Higgins. Something is wrong. She tried too. The lock had been changed. A cold ran through my body that had nothing to do with the weather. I rang the doorbell. No one answered. I banged on the door. Silence. This cannot be happening, I murmured, feeling my legs fail. I dialed Natalie. She answered on the 4th ring. Mom, what is wrong? I cannot get into my house. The lock. Oh yes, I sent to change them. For security. While you were in the hospital, I could not leave the house vulnerable. And my keys. A silence. Too long. I have them. But Mom, we need to talk. You can no longer live alone. The heart attack was a clear warning. Natalie opened the door. It is my house. Mom, calm down. It is not good for you to get upset. Look, I already spoke with a lawyer. With the power of attorney you signed, I have authority to make decisions about the property if your health is at risk. And clearly it is. The world stopped. Mrs. Higgins held me because literally I was falling. What did you do? What I should have done months ago. I transferred the house to my name. It is legal, Mom. Everything is in order. I did the best for you. I could not breathe. My chest burned again. I found you a perfect place. A residence in the city, clean, safe with nurses. The first month is already paid. You can move in tomorrow. Natalie, please. This is not negotiable, Mom. You almost died. Do you want me to find you in 3 days stiff on the floor of your house next time? Because that is what is going to happen. Every word was a slap. I will pass by tomorrow at 10 to take you to meet your new home. Pack only the necessary. Close personal documents. The rest I handle. Natalie, you cannot do this to me. "It is already done, Mom, and deep down, when your tantrum passes, you are going to thank me." And she hung up. I stayed there standing in front of the door of my own house, the house I paid for with 40 years of work, the house where I buried my youth, my dreams, my marriage. Mrs. Higgins cried beside me, "This cannot be legal, it cannot." But it was, because I signed, because I trusted, because I was a fool who believed a mother's love was reciprocated. That night I slept on Mrs. Higgins' couch. She lent me pajamas, made me lime tea, let me cry on her shoulder until I had no tears left. "Tomorrow we go to a lawyer," she told me. "This is not going to stay like this." But I knew the truth. Natalie was a doctor respected with resources. I was a sick old woman who had signed papers without reading well. Who would believe me? My daughter had taken me out of my own house while I agonized in a hospital. And the worst, she did it with total coldness. As if I were already dead. They locked me up like trash. But my mind was never clearer. The New Dawn residence had nothing new nor dawn. It was a gray 3-story building in a forgotten neighborhood with rusty bars and a smell of cheap disinfectant that failed to hide other worse smells. Natalie left me at the entrance with 2 suitcases. "It is temporary, Mom, until you stabilize." Lie number 1000. They assigned me a room on the 2nd floor, 12 square meters I shared with another old woman named Socorro, who did not stop praying the rosary aloud day and night, a hard bed, a tiny closet, a window with a view of a parking lot. That was all. The first days were a silent hell. I spent my time sitting on the edge of my bed looking at the hospital green walls, feeling my soul turn off little by little. The food was horrible. Watery broth, chicken hard like shoe-sole old bread. Nothing to do with my stew with my pot coffee with Mrs. Higgins' freshly made biscuits. Natalie came every 2 weeks. 15 minutes exactly, never more, never less. She checked I was taking my meds, signed papers, and left with a smile of duty fulfilled. "You see, Mom, here you are, safe, cared for. Is it not better than being alone in that huge house?" I did not answer. I no longer had strength to fight. But then I met Mr. Stevens. He was an 82-year-old man, thin with a perfectly trimmed white mustache and blue eyes that still shone with intelligence. He used an elegant wooden cane and always dressed in a shirt, even if it was just to go down to the dining room. I met him one afternoon in the small back garden of the residence. I was sitting on a bench, watching hours pass without meaning. "May I?" he asked, pointing to the space next to me. I nodded without much desire. He sat with a sigh, took out a handkerchief, and cleaned his glasses. "I detest this place," he said without preambles, "but I suppose you do too." Something in his tone made me smile for the first time in weeks. "Is it that noticeable?" "Ma'am, you have the face of someone whose life was stolen." "I know because I have the same face," and so began our friendship. Mr. Stevens had been a labor lawyer for 40 years. His wife died 5 years ago. His only son, a successful engineer in another state, put him in the residence for his own good and kept his apartment. He sold it for $4.5 million. He gives me $300 a month for my expenses. Do you know how much this place costs? $800. He pays the rest and keeps everything left over. It was my story with other names, other numbers, but the same script. During the following weeks, Mr. Stevens became my confidant. I told him everything. The 15 years of sacrifice, the loans paid, the power of attorney, my stolen house. He listened to me with lawyer attention, taking mental notes. "Hope what they did to you is patrimonial abuse, possibly fraud. That power of attorney you signed was temporary and specific. It did not give her the right to transfer properties. But I signed. You signed under pressure while sick and vulnerable. That can be fought." For the first time in months, I felt something similar to hope. I also met Lucy, a 35-year-old nurse who worked the night shift. She was the only employee who treated us like people and not furniture. One early morning, she found me crying in the hallway. I could not sleep. Socorro's snores and the weight of my loss suffocated me. "Mrs. Hope, what is wrong?" I told her everything. Between tears and contained anger, I told her everything. Lucy squeezed my hands. My grandmother went through something similar. My uncle took her land. She died of sadness 6 months later. Do not let that happen to you. But what can I do? I have no money for lawyers. I have no strength. You are right. And you have witnesses. I have seen you. You are lucid clear. If your daughter says you are senile, it is a lie, and that can be proven. Mr. Stevens. Lucy and I started meeting in secret, in the garden during nights when others slept. We need to document everything said, Mr. Stevens, every visit from your daughter, every word she says. And we need to find witnesses who confirm the state of your house, the real value, the circumstances of the transfer. I know lawyers, he added, good ones, those who fight lost causes, but we need to build a solid case. For the first time in months, my brain started working again. I was not the defeated old woman Natalie wanted me to be. I was Hope, the woman who survived her husband's death, who raised a daughter alone, who worked triple shifts without breaking. And if I could handle all that, I could handle this. What do I need to do? I asked with a voice I had not heard in a long time, a firm voice. Mr. Stevens smiled. First, stop crying and start documenting. Second, contact people who can testify in your favor. Third, he paused dramatically. Make your daughter trust herself so much she makes a mistake. Lucy took out her phone, and I can record when she comes, when she speaks everything you need. Something changed in me that night. Pain transformed into determination, sadness into strategy. Natalie had taken my house, but not my dignity, and much less my capacity to fight. I stopped crying and started documenting every lie. Mr. Stevens got me a small notebook. Here you will write everything. Dates, conversations, broken promises, everything. I became a detective of my own life. First mission, get copies of the documents I signed. Mr. Stevens had a contact in public records who for $50 got us copies of the power of attorney and the property transfer. When we read them, Mr. Stevens hit the table with contained fury. I knew it. This power was temporary, 6 months max, and only for basic medical and banking management. It never gave authority to transfer properties. This is pure fraud. So can I get my house back? If we demonstrate there was coercion, abuse of trust, and you were vulnerable, yes. But we need more than this. Lucy turned out to be an invaluable ally. When Natalie came to visit me, she found reasons to be organizing meds, checking vital signs, always with her phone in her pocket recording. In one of those visits, Natalie complained to the director of the residence. My mother needs more sedatives. She gets anxious, combative. She does not want to accept her reality. Lucy recorded it all, including the part where Natalie added, "The less lucid she is, the better for everyone." Those words destroyed me, but they also gave me ammunition. Mr. Stevens taught me something important. The most dangerous enemy is the one who gets overconfident. Natalie thinks she already won. That will be her downfall. My cousin Rachel was the next key piece. I called her from the residence payphone. "Cousin, I need your help, but it has to be secret." Rachel came to see me a week later. She pretended to be a new resident visiting the facilities. We sat in the garden like two strangers. I gave her specific instructions. Talk to the neighbors of my old house, to Mrs. Higgins especially. Get testimonies of how I lived my mental state, how Natalie pressured me. And there is something else I added. I need you to go to the notary where the transfer was made, ask who was present, what documents Natalie presented if I was there. Rachel squeezed my hand. They are going to return your house, cousin, I swear. 2 weeks later, Rachel returned with information that changed everything. Mrs. Higgins gave a heartbreaking testimony, how she found me passed out, how Natalie took days to come to the hospital, how she saw men changing locks while I agonized. Mr. Ramirez, my lifelong neighbor, confirmed I was perfectly lucid, always that I took care of my house, paid my bills, lived independently. But most importantly, Rachel spoke with the notary. Hope your daughter presented the power of attorney and a fake medical certificate that said you were in advanced dementia state and could not make decisions. You were never present at the transfer. My blood boiled. A fake medical certificate. She, being a doctor, had forged documents. "That is a serious crime," said Mr. Stevens when I told him. "With this and the recordings, we have a solid case." But we needed one more thing that Natalie sink herself with her own words. Mr. Stevens designed a plan. You are going to ask her to come. You will tell her you are ready to sign more papers, that you accept everything you will make her feel safe. And then you will ask specific questions while Lucy records. It was risky, but it was our only chance. I called Natalie. I faked a weak, defeated voice. "Daughter, I need to see you. I want to fix some pending papers about the house." I heard her smile on the other side of the phone. "Of course, Mom. I will go on Saturday." "I am glad you are finally being reasonable." That Saturday, I set the perfect stage. I asked the director to let us use the private visiting room. My daughter and I need privacy for legal matters. Lucy hid her phone behind a vase in recording mode. When Natalie arrived, she brought a new folder. More papers to sign, surely. "Mom, you look better. Rest is doing you good." I swallowed my anger. I smiled like the old fool she thought I was. "Daughter, I have been thinking a lot. About the house, about everything. I am glad you came to your senses. I just have some doubts. The house was worth $350,000 right, more or less. But with the repairs it needed, I sold it for $280,000. Lie." Mr. Stevens found out she had not sold it. It was in her name, waiting for the perfect moment. "And where is that money?" Natalie sighed with annoyance. "Mom, it is invested, for your future, for when you need more care." "Can I see it?" "The investment papers." Her face changed. "You do not need to see anything. I handle everything. For that you gave me the power, remember. Yes, but that power was temporary. For medical emergencies. It was for what I considered necessary." Her voice hardened. "Mom, we are not going to start with this again. It is just that I do not understand, daughter. I worked 15 years to pay for your career. Why do I feel you are now charging me every dollar I invested in you?" The silence was heavy. Natalie left the folder on the table. "Do you want the truth, Mom?" I nodded, feeling my heart accelerate, and then she let out everything I needed to destroy her. I set a stage, and she fell like the ambitious woman she always was. Natalie leaned back in the chair, crossed her legs, and looked at me with a coldness I will never forget. "Do you want the truth?" "Okay. It is time you be realistic." I kept my composure. Behind the vase, Lucy's phone kept recording. "Mom, you already fulfilled your function. You paid for my career. That was the only thing I really needed from you. It was your obligation as a mother, right? Give me the tools to succeed." Every word was a knife. The house should have always been mine. I am an only child. Eventually, it was going to be mine. I just accelerated the process. But you left me with nothing. My voice trembled. I did not have to fake it. I left you with a roof, food, and medical care. What else do you need at your age? Why waste money on an old woman who has no future? There it was. She had said it, with those exact words. Besides, let us be honest. You already lived your life. You raised your daughter. You married. You worked. Done. Now it is my turn to enjoy what corresponds to me, and my last years, my memories in that house. Natalie let out a dry laugh. "Oh, Mom, memories are in your head, not in four walls. Get over it." I breathed deep. Mr. Stevens had prepared me for this. Push her more, make her spill everything, and if I had not signed that power, what would you have done? Her smile twisted. "I would have found a way. A dementia certificate is not hard to get when you know doctors. A signature here, another there. Mom, I am a doctor. I know how the system works." She had just confessed forging documents, but you made things easier signing. You were always so trusting, so naive. She leaned forward. "Look, I am going to tell you something I never told you. Those 15 years you worked like a donkey for me, I never asked you. It was your decision to sacrifice yourself. I only accepted the gift. It was your education, your future, and I thanked you by being successful. But I do not owe you my entire life for that. I am not going to be your pension or your company because you decided to invest in me." Tears ran down my cheeks. But they were not of sadness. They were of contained rage. "The children, Sam and Mia, what did you tell them about me?" "The truth that you are old, that your mind fails, that it is better you are where they take care of you. They understand it. They do not need a senile grandmother in their lives." "Senile. Natalie, I am perfectly fine." "Oh, really?" She laughed with cruelty. "Then why are you locked up here? Why did you sign everything I put in front of you? Why does no one in the family defend you?" She stood up, took her bag. "Because everyone knows I did the right thing. Poor Natalie carrying her sick mother. What sacrifice, what dedication. No one questions anything. She walked to the door, but stopped. Oh, and about the house money. It is not invested for you. I used it as a down payment for a condo on the beach in Florida. Roger and I needed a place to vacation. You do not need vacations anymore, Mom. You just need a place to die peacefully. She opened the door. See you in 2 weeks, or maybe 3. I have a very tight schedule. And she left. I sat there trembling, but not from fear, from power. Lucy ran in 2 minutes later. I have it all. Every word, Mrs. Hope. Mr. Stevens appeared behind her. He had been listening from the hallway. It is enough. With this we sink her. Rachel was also there. She had come to give moral support. She cried with indignation. That wretch. How can someone be so cruel to her own mother? That night in my room, shared with Socorro and her infinite rosaries, I listened to the complete recording. Every poisonous word, every arrogant confession. Natalie had fallen into the perfect trap. Her pride had blinded her so much she did not see the hit coming. Mr. Stevens brought his contact. Marshall Connor, a 60-year-old lawyer, gray-haired with a bulldog face and a reputation for never losing patrimonial abuse cases. He listened to the recording in silence. When it finished, he took off his glasses and cleaned them slowly. Mrs. Hope, this is pure gold. Confession of fraud, forging of medical documents, aggravated patrimonial abuse dispossession. Your daughter is not only going to lose the case, she can face criminal charges. Criminal! She is a doctor. Forging medical certificates is a serious crime. She can lose her professional license, her career. I felt a small flash of doubt. She was my daughter, after all. But I remembered her words. An old woman who has no future. How long will it take? I asked. With this evidence, the testimonies and the documentation we already gathered, we can file the lawsuit this week. The normal legal process would take months, but with evidence so overwhelming, I can ask for immediate precautionary measures. What does that mean? That we can freeze the house, prevent her from selling or mortgaging it while the case resolves, and with luck, have a sentence in 3 or 4 months. 3 or 4 months. It seemed like an eternity, but after what happened, I could wait. Let us do it. I said with a firmness I did not feel for years. Mr. Stevens smiled. There is the hope. I knew the one who does not give up. We signed papers that same afternoon. The lawsuit was filed the following Monday. And I prepared for war, because Natalie did not know who she had messed with. She believed she had destroyed a weak old woman. But she woke up a lioness. Justice did not arrive from the sky. I built it with my own trembling hands. The legal notification reached Natalie's hands a Tuesday morning. She was in her office when the process server knocked on her door. I knew because she called me 30 minutes later, furious as I had never heard her. What the hell did you do, Mom? Her voice trembled with rage. I kept calm. Mr. Stevens had trained me for this moment. Recover what is mine, Natalie. Do you have any idea what you just did? Of the ridicule you are going to make me go through. I am a respected professional. You are a thief, and now everyone is going to know. Deadly silence on the other side. You are going to regret this. I am going to demonstrate you are demented, that they manipulated you. That I have recordings, Natalie, of everything you said, of how you confessed you forged documents, of how you called me an old woman without a future. I heard her breathe hard. Then she hung up. Mr. Connor had done an impeccable job. The lawsuit included dispossession fraud, aggravated patrimonial abuse document forgery, and patrimonial violence against a senior. The precautionary measures worked. The house remained frozen. Natalie could not sell, rent, or mortgage it until the case was resolved. But the best came later. Roger called me 2 days after the notification. His voice sounded tired, ashamed. Mrs. Hope, I need to talk to you alone. We met at a coffee shop near the residence. Roger had deep, dark circles, messy hair. He was not the neat man I knew. I knew nothing, he said before sitting. I swear on my children I did not know how she treated you. The house, the fake documents, nothing. How is it possible? Is it? You live with her. Natalie hid everything from me. She told me you had signed voluntarily, that you were happy in the residence. I wanted to believe her. He lowered his gaze. But when the lawsuit arrived and I read the accusations, I confronted her. And what did she say? She went crazy. She screamed that you were an ingrate, that after everything she did for you, this is how you paid her. I told her, what did you do for her? She paid your entire career. Roger took an envelope out of his briefcase. I found this in her study, documents she planned to use in her defense, the fake medical certificate she presented to the notary, emails where she quoted the condo in Florida using your house money, everything. He passed me the envelope. My hands trembled opening it. Why do you give me this? Because I have a mother too, and if someone did to her what Natalie did to you, I would want them to pay. Besides, he paused long. Sam and Mia found out everything. They listened to the recording presented in the lawsuit. And how are they? Devastated. Mia does not speak to her mom. Sam is in therapy. It broke their hearts to know their grandmother needed them, and they believed lies. Tears came without warning. They are not to blame, I know. That is why I want you to know they are going to testify in your favor if necessary. And me too. Roger became a key witness. He who had lived closely Natalie's transformation into a cold and calculating woman. The trial was set for mid-December, 3 months since we filed the lawsuit. The room was full. Natalie arrived with her lawyer, a guy in an expensive suit, who looked more like a salesman than a litigator. She wore dark glasses as if she were a victim of something. I arrived with Mr. Stevens on one side, Lucy on the other, and Rachel behind my small army. The judge was a man of about 60, serious-looking. He listened first to Natalie's defense. Her lawyer tried to paint me as a senile old woman manipulated by strangers who wanted to keep my money. That Natalie had acted out of love protecting my assets. Then it was our turn. Mr. Connor presented the recordings. In that silent room, Natalie's voice resonated like thunder. You already fulfilled your function. It was your obligation as a mother. I am not going to waste money on an old woman who has no future. I saw how Natalie sank in her chair, how her lawyer closed his eyes resigned. Then came the testimonies. Mrs. Higgins cried, telling how she found me passed out. Mr. Ramirez confirmed my mental lucidity. Rachel narrated the systematic manipulations, but the final blow was Roger. He presented the documents Natalie hid, the fake medical certificate with the forged signature of a colleague, the emails about the Florida condo, everything. My wife did not act out of love, said Roger with a firm voice. She acted out of ambition. And the worst is she destroyed the only person who really loved her without conditions. Natalie tried to speak. She stammered something about misunderstandings, about bad interpretations. The judge raised his hand. Enough! Mia and Sam were in the room. Mia cried silently. Sam looked at me with a mixture of shame and sadness. After 2 hours of presenting evidence, the judge retired to deliberate. He returned 30 minutes later. I have carefully reviewed all evidence presented. The recordings, the testimonies, the documents, and my verdict is clear. I felt my heart coming out of my chest. The house is returned to its legitimate owner, Mrs. Hope Mendoza Garcia. Furthermore, the defendant must pay compensation for moral damages of $50,000, plus the medical expenses Mrs. Hope had to cover alone during this period. I could not believe what I was hearing. Additionally, I have ordered a criminal investigation for forgery of medical documents. The case will be turned to the corresponding prosecutor's office. Natalie jumped up. This is unfair. She manipulated me. I only wanted to protect her. The judge looked at her harshly. Dr. Salazar, I suggest you remain silent. Your own words condemned you. And so, in that cold courtroom, I recovered my life. Not only did I recover my house, I taught her the meaning of losing everything. The sentence fell like a hammer on Natalie's perfect life, and I was there to see it crumble piece by piece. The first thing was her reputation. The case leaked to the media, not with all details, but enough. Dr. stripped sick mother of her assets. The headlines were ruthless. Her colleagues at the hospital found out. Whispers began in the hallways. Patients started canceling appointments. Who wants to be treated by a doctor capable of doing that to her own mother? The hospital management asked her to take some time off. Elegant euphemism for we do not want your scandal here. The criminal investigation advanced fast. The colleague whose signature she forged on the medical certificate filed charges. The medical board opened a review process of her professional license. Natalie, the successful cardiologist, the respected professional, was collapsing. But what hurt her most was losing her family. Roger asked for a divorce 2 weeks after the trial. He told me when he came to help me move back to my house, "I cannot continue with someone capable of this. The values I thought we shared never existed." And the kids. They are with me. Natalie can see them, but with supervision. They asked for it themselves. The day I returned to my house was bittersweet. The property was intact but felt empty cold, as if months of abandonment had stolen its soul. Mr. Stevens, Lucy Rachel, and Mrs. Higgins helped me clean, ventilate, give it life back. Roger brought furniture Natalie had taken out. Sam and Mia came to help too. "Grandma, forgive us," Mia cried in my arms. "We believed her lies. We thought you—" "Shh, my girl. You are victims too. She deceived everyone. It was Sam who told me the worst. Or maybe the best, depending on how you see it. Mom had to sell the condo in Florida. She needed money to pay your compensation and her lawyers. She lost everything she invested. Poetic justice at its finest. The place she bought with my house money, the symbol of her betrayal, she had to sell to pay me." A month after the trial, Natalie tried to visit me. She arrived alone without warning mid-afternoon. I saw her from the window. She looked destroyed. Thin hair, unkempt clothes, wrinkled. She was no longer the neat and successful doctor. She rang the doorbell. I did not open immediately. I let her wait. When finally I opened the door, she stayed standing there not knowing what to say. "Mom, What do you want, Natalie?" "Forgiveness. I need you to forgive me. I lost everything. My job, my marriage, my kids hate me. I have nothing." Those words. The same ones I could have said months ago. And you come looking for forgiveness because you need it, not because you truly regret it, she cried. Real tears this time without calculation behind. I do not know what happened to me. Ambition, money, wanting to give my kids what I did not have, I got lost on the way. You had everything, Natalie. A mother who killed herself working for you. An education that opened all doors. But it was not enough, I know. And now I lost everything. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw a broken woman. But I did not feel the impulse to hug her, to console her, as I would have done before. Because some wounds are too deep. Natalie, for months I asked myself what I did wrong, how I failed as a mother for you to reach this. But now I understand it was not my fault. I gave you unconditional love. You chose to convert it into a commercial transaction. Mom, please, I am not going to deny you forgiveness, but I am also not going to forget. You can continue your life, rebuild what you destroyed, but do not expect me to be there to pick you up every time you fall. She took something out of her bag. A key. It is to the house, the last copy I had left. I took it. Do you know what is the saddest of all this? That if you had asked me for help, if you had been honest with me about your money problems, I would have found a way to help you. Because that is how mothers love, without conditions. I know, she whispered. That is why it hurts more. She turned to leave, but stopped. The kids want to see you. Roger says it is okay. Tell them I expect them on Sunday. For lunch. I am going to make pot roast. She nodded and left, walking slowly, hunched as if carrying the weight of the world. Did I feel pity? Yes, she was my daughter after all. Did I forgive her completely? No, because true forgiveness takes time, and some betrayals leave permanent scars. That night, sitting in my living room with a cup of hot cocoa between my hands, I looked around. My house. My home. Recovered. Mr. Stevens had died 2 weeks after the trial. His heart simply stopped while he slept. But he died happy knowing he had helped win one last battle. Lucy kept visiting me. She was no longer my nurse. She was my friend. Rachel came every week with donuts and neighborhood gossip. Mrs. Higgins continued leaving plates of food at my door, although I no longer needed them. I had lost months of my life. I had suffered betrayals I never imagined. But I also found something I did not know I had. Strength. Dignity. the capacity to get up when everything seemed lost. Natalie took my house for a time, but I took something from her she will never be able to recover: her peace. Because now she will live the rest of her life knowing she destroyed the only person who loved her without asking for anything in return. And that is true poetic justice. At my 78 years, I learned it is never too late to defend yourself, and never too early to reap what you sow. 6 months have passed since the trial, 6 months in which my life rebuilt itself in ways I never imagined. My house filled with life again, not in the way I expected, but in a more authentic, more real way. Sundays became sacred. Sam and Mia come to eat. I teach them to make biscuits by hand. I tell them stories of when their mom was a girl, the good stories before ambition consumed her. "Grandma, why did Mom change so much?" Mia asked me one afternoon while we were mixing dough. "Sometimes my girl success makes us forget where we come from. Your mom got lost on the way. But that does not mean she cannot find herself again." "Do you think she will?" "That depends on her. I already did my part." Roger also comes from time to time. He feels guilty for not seeing the signs, but I hold no grudge against him. "Mrs. Hope, if I had known..." "Stop it, son. The important thing is, you were there when it mattered. That is worth more than any apology." With the compensation Natalie paid, I could finally afford my full medical treatment. The meds I really need: regular checkups, a dignified life. I still work, but now by choice, not necessity. I sell my pies on weekends because I like it, because it is my tradition. Neighborhood people say they are the best in the suburbs. Mrs. Higgins and I became inseparable. We share coffees in the afternoons, laugh at soap operas, accompany each other in silence. "Mrs. Hope, you are the bravest woman I know." I was not brave, Mrs. Higgins. I just stopped being afraid. And it is true. For years I lived afraid of bothering, asking, claiming what was mine. Fear my daughter would stop loving me if I was not the perfect sacrifice mother. But that fear almost killed me. Literally. Now I live differently, with my head high, knowing my value is not in what I can give, but in who I am. Natalie is rebuilding her life. Slowly. She got a job at a smaller clinic with a much lower salary. The criminal process ended with probation and community service. She lost her license for 2 years. I see her from afar sometimes. We cross paths at the market on the street. We greet with a head nod. Nothing more. Do I love her? Yes. She is my daughter. That does not change. Do I trust her? No. And perhaps I never will again completely. Do I need her? Not anymore. And that was the most liberating discovery of all. One day, 3 months after the trial, a letter arrived at my door. It was from Natalie. Handwritten, not printed. Pages and pages of apologies, of recognition of pain. "Mom, I do not expect you to forgive me. I am not even sure I deserve it. But I need you to know that every day I carry what I did, not because of the judge's sentence, but because of the sentence of my own conscience. I destroyed the most valuable thing I had for things that are worth nothing. The condo, the money, the prestige. Everything is gone, but you are still there, and I am here alone with my decisions. Maybe someday I can look you in the eyes without feeling this shame that eats me alive. Meanwhile, I just want you to be happy. Live in peace in the house that was always yours, your daughter who learned the hardest lesson. I kept that letter in the drawer where I keep my treasures. I did not throw it away because forgiveness is a process, not an event. The lemon tree in my patio bloomed this month. Mr. Stevens told me once trees that survive the strongest storms are the ones that give the sweetest fruits. He was right. This story, my story, is not just about a recovered house or a daughter who betrayed. It is about finding strength when you thought you had none left. It is about knowing your dignity does not depend on how much you give, but on how much you respect who you are. It is about understanding that true love never humiliates, never strips, never destroys. And it is about learning that sometimes the families we choose are stronger than blood families. Today, at my 78 years, with my weak heart but my unbreakable spirit, I live every day as a gift. I tend to my geraniums, make my coffee, greet my neighbors, hug my grandkids. And when I sit in my living room in that armchair where I rocked baby Natalie, I no longer feel pain, I feel peace. Because true wealth is not in what you possess, but in what you do not allow them to take away. Your value, your dignity, your right to be treated with respect, those things no one can steal unless you allow it. And I no longer allow anything. If this story touched something in your heart, if you ever felt you gave everything for someone who did not value it, or if you know someone going through something similar, leave me a comment telling me your experience. I would love to know from what part of the world you are listening. And remember, it is never too late to defend what is yours. It is never too late to recover your dignity. It is never too late to bloom again. Like this video if you believe hope did the right thing, subscribe to the channel for more real stories that need to be told, and share this with someone who needs to hear that, yes, you can get ahead. Because sometimes the best victories are not those that come easy. They are those you build with your own trembling hands. Until the next story, and remember your life is yours, defend it. End.